Welcome to the second episode of Entitled Opinion Podcast. This is exciting. Everybody keeps asking me, how do I feel about the first episode? And I'm still nervous, right? Because I'm premiering them both together, so I still haven't put out that first episode, why I got divorced. I gotta stop saying so much. I don't really like that. I keep having to edit that out. If you see clips, it's because I said and I don't really like. I used to hate that Barack Obama did that. He used to do that, but then they fixed like at the beginning when he first became president in his speeches. I used to hate it, and then now, so look, now I do it. So I don't want to do that. Eventually, I'm gonna work on that. That's something I got to work on. But no, I'm really nervous about the podcast because I put my business out. I don't like to put my business out. I'm a very private person. I like to be ambiguous. I like for y'all to just put me in categories that you think that I should be in because I can't control that. And I know my category that I put myself in. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really care about what people think about me. But I also understand that people are going to hear the stories. They're not going to like it, right? I'm thinking like, ooh, am I going to reignite things with my ex? Are we going to be back going at each other? And I'm ready for that. A lot of people who that was a divorce and all those and after it was the only time in my life, not the only time, we're going to talk about another time, that's what this episode is about, that I was weak in though, as my adult life, where I was a weak person and people took advantage of the fact that I was weak, that I didn't fight back, that I was just wasn't my normal confrontational self. I'm ready. Like ever since then, I've got my brain back. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go. I'm gonna tell you, I got a glass of what you told me to drink. I got a glass of it for you with ice. Evil laugh, evil laugh. In saying that, it wasn't my first time I'm going through depression, right? I was thinking about what made me be able to fight through that depression and getting my brain right. And I'm a fighter, bro. Like if I am going through something, I'm a fighter. And I thought about the worst thing that's happened to me in my life was when I was 16 years old. Now, I grew up very privileged, right? I'm a spoiled kid. I grew up very, very privileged. Anybody who went to high school with me, I had the best clothes, I had the chains, I had my first car was like a Benz. I was a very spoiled kid. My mom had started dating this guy named Benji. He was a pharmaceutical specialist. He was very classy though. He wasn't like a hood dealer. Can we say, I don't know what I could say on. That's my issue too with telling these stories for YouTube is I don't know what I could say. I know YouTube, there's a lot of things you can't say. We're gonna call him a pharmaceutical specialist. He was a nice person. I remember when he was first courting my mom, he sent her roses every single day for a month. Like I remember coming home from school and there was always roses. And my mom was a single mom and she still was able to spoil me. She started dating him and spoil went to the max now because he had all this money, success in what he did. To make a long story short, he moved in with us. They became a couple. They ended up getting married, lived a life. But when he moved in with us, him being a pharmaceutical specialist and one of like the top ones, we had to have like we had ring cameras before ring cameras was popular. We were the only people with like security on our house. There was a camera in the back, camera in the middle. We had all these different locks on our door. And me being a kid that didn't come from that, I didn't really understand. They used to get on me all the time. You have to lock the door. You have to make sure you have to do like it was such a big deal. One day I'm at home and I'm home alone. I'm getting ready for school. And I remember I was brushing my hair. I was a pretty boy. Like this is how I looked. This is how I looked. I still am a pretty boy. Hey, I'm a pretty man. Hey, nah. But I heard like a boom, like somebody was knocking at the door. I didn't know what it was, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I think because I was leaving my friend a voice message. My friend had just left my house. Next thing you know, I lay down in bed and somebody like kicks open my door. And I'm like, and somebody comes in my room with a mask on. And I'm thinking it was my brother. For some reason, I thought it was my brother playing around because I could tell that the person was black. And I was like a little confused. And then they just grabbed me up out of bed. And then I noticed that there was maybe like 6 dudes. They all had masks on. They put a pow to my head. And I was so confused at what's going on. They're like, where's the money? Where's this? Where's that? And I didn't know anything. I was just like, I point them to the bedroom. I'm like, I gotta be in the bedroom. This is not. Now I remember there was a drawer full of money that one time I needed some lunch money and they were like, "Oh, just go into the drawer. Just go into that drawer." And it was like a lot of money. So I just pointed them to the drawer and they grab all the money. They grab the drawer. This is so crazy that I'm even telling this story and it doesn't seem real. But they grab the money. They grab everything. They take me with them now, right? They're taking me outside. And we're walking down the street and I'm thinking like, what are they gonna do to me? And the main guy I remember, he told the guy that had my arm, "Go ahead, go ahead." And the guy's like, "What?" He's like, "Go ahead." And I'm like, and he's like pausing. And I just pushed him. Boom. I just pushed him, ran. Boom, boom. I run, run, run. Now, my grandmother lives around the street. Well, first of all, I ran to this house. I ran to like any neighbor's house. And I knock on the neighbor's door, and I remember it was an old white lady, and I was like, "Oh my god, my house just got robbed. I didn't know that." She was just like, I'm not opening my door for you." Cool. So I run around the corner to my grandmother's house. I go to my grandmother's house, and I'm telling everybody what just happened. I'm hysterical, but not in a hysterical way because I'm a person where I don't freak out, right? Like I know how to handle situations. I don't like freak out. Like I'm very calm in when everybody else would be freaking out, right? So I'm telling them what happened. They end up calling everybody. I remember they called Benji and I could hear him cussing. He instantly was mad at me. "I told him to lock the door. I told him to lock the door." And I remember thinking like, what? Uh cool. So we're back at the house. Everybody's at the house now. I'm upstairs. I go back to getting ready for school. I'm 16 years old, right? I remember I went back to brush. I'm brushing my hair. I was a wave dude back then. I'm brushing my hair, and I hear my uncle downstairs telling them how when I came to my grandma's house that it didn't seem real. Like he was thinking that I was faking, that I was lying, that it wasn't right. So I'm like, what? And I'm listening. So I start to listen to the heat vent of them talking about it. And Benji's like, yeah, it just don't seem right. Like, how did they do that? And how come they didn't do anything to him? Because 2 weeks prior to this, Benji's son, they broke into his home and they beat him with a pow pow. Me, they didn't do that. So it's like, why didn't they do anything to him? I mean, I think they beat him really bad, like hospitalized him. Um, I go downstairs and I'm like, hold up, hold up, hold up. And I'm 16. Now I've always been me though. I've been me since I was 6. Like I've been me. So I go, what y'all think? Y'all trying to say that I set this up? And everybody's quiet, and I go off. I go off, right? I don't even know what I said, but I know that them grown people that was in that room, nobody said anything back to me. It just doesn't seem right. Make a long story short, they ended up saying that my oldest brother and I had set up this robbery. Now, I was not a kid that was in the streets at all. I was, again, a pretty boy who just hung out with a bunch of girls in school. I wasn't about that. Like, that wasn't what I was about. School. I was about dressing nice and just like my ex-wife was my girlfriend at the time. My ex-wife, we were teenagers, we were dating at the time. And I just lived a regular plain life. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't about no street life. Nobody, that wasn't what I was about. Um Benji ended up saying that they ended up taking some can I say drugs? Can we say drugs on YouTube? They ended up taking some drugs that belonged to somebody else, and that person was looking to unalive me, and I had to move. Now I'm 16 years old, and we didn't know where to go. My dad was nowhere to be found. My dad was in the streets, and we'll talk about that later on. The only person in my family that would take me in is my aunt Darlene. God bless my aunt Darlene. My aunt Darlene had 5 kids already, and one of her nieces and nephew that she took in, and she took me in. At maybe like a 3 bedroom, 5 kids. I remember I shared a bed with my cousin Shannon, and I went from this luxury life of my mom used to give me $50 a day for lunch and having nothing at all. And I was so depressed because nobody believed me in my whole family. Everybody turned their backs on me. Um, And Aunt Darlene was the only person that had my back. I remember Aunt Darlene I used to just sleep and cry and sleep and cry. I went to school. I didn't get a haircut. I didn't do anything. I remember people coming up to me like, "Are you all right? Like you seem so different." I just remember like everything just seemed like a haze. Like everything, like overnight, my life had changed. Yeah, it was 11th grade. It was 11th grade, and it was a really really bad time. Aunt Darlene used to read the Bible to me. She used to bring me in her room, and she used to tell me about forgiveness and it's okay to forgive these people. And like she would just like, I'll have my head on her lap and she would just like come in the room. She would read the Bible to me. She would just speak so much life into me. She really saved me during that time. I started going to church. I went to the church, Mount Sinai in Rochester, New York. And I just really was like, that's when I just got me closer to God, and just I never had any spiritual beliefs or anything prior to that. We ended up moving out of town. There was I'm not really sure if it was because of me, but I know that they were threatening my life. The people's whose drugs that were stolen because we set this up. And my aunt Arlene ended up moving to a town. She ended up selling everything in her house and taking the kids and everybody to a town that was a few hours away. And we ended up moving with her boyfriend. We couldn't get me in school there because she didn't have custody of me. So she couldn't get me in school in this town. And I wasn't going to school. And I would just cry in my bed all day. And um I should put my phone on do not disturb while I'm doing this. But I would just cry in my bed all day. I She'd read me the Bible. We moved in with Aunt Darlene's boyfriend, and he did not like me. I was again, I've always been me. And he felt like, okay, I'm getting all these kids. I'm not sure if he had kids at the time. Like, I think he had kids, but they didn't live with him. So all these kids were moving in with him, and he had already set rules on how things were going to go. And I didn't go to school or I didn't do anything. I didn't have my friends. So I would sleep during the day. I would be up at night. And he's just like, you need to go to bed. And I'm like, I ain't got no school. I've been asleep all day. I'm up and like I'll be in the bed still, but he wants me to be asleep. Like he was crazy with his rule. Even as a kid, if you tell me to do something and it doesn't make sense, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna fight you on it. And there was a point where he just could not take me anymore. After we were there for months, and I didn't go to school for months, and I believe he told Aunt Darlene, it's either me or him, and she chose me. She didn't like the fact that he gave her this ultimatum, and we ended up having to move back in town. Now she had got rid of all her things, and we were all over the place. The kids were in places. I had to find another place to live. We couldn't find my dad. I'm like, this is. I hope you guys are. I hope this makes sense. So we couldn't find my dad. I ended up moving. I was just moving with friends at this time, friends, and I'm on everybody's sofa. I ended up moving in with a friend who had an extra room, who wasn't much older than me, but she owned her own house. And then we found my father. Now, I moved in with my dad. We finally found my dad. My dad lived in a one-bedroom apartment, but we ended up turning the living room into my room. I was able to get back in school. Although I had missed 7 months of school, they still didn't drop me. Like, they didn't put me out. I had to catch up with 7 months of not going to school, and I did. I took multiple classes at once. I got into night school. I got into day school. I had to go to the city school district and explain to them what happened. I was 17 now at this time. I they let me back in school. They let me double up on classes. They let me take night school. They let me do all everything, and I did every single thing I had to do. I also got a job. I got two jobs, right? So I was going to day school, night school. I got a job at Jillian's, which was like an entertainment place, and I had a job at the Strong Museum. Which during the daytime, and I would work at Jillian's during the nighttime, and I was taking night school. I was doing all this at 17 years old. I was determined to get my life back. I was determined to get out of this. When I moved in with my dad, I had to take care of the bills because my dad he was on like welfare. The house was a mess. I remember me and my ex, we bought all this cleaning products. We came in, we cleaned the house up because I'm allergic to like mice and roaches and all that. Y'all will hear this, and when y'all come to my tour, you'll hear about this story in the funny way. That's another thing I want y'all to know. I tell all these stories kind of in my stand up, but the funny version of them, right? But I never realized what I was doing until a friend of mine's friend, she said, she was a grown lady at the time, came to visit my friend. And she said, you want to walk to the store with me? And to the store with her. And she was like, hey, I just want you to know I know about your life. I know what's going on with you. And I feel bad for you because you're a kid. But the fact that you picked yourself up, the fact that you work, the fact that you still going to school, the fact that you've gotten all your grades up and you did that yourself, I want you to understand how strong you are. And I never realized it until that time. She was like, she was like, people would have unalived themselves and you got better. And that made me realize that young boy right there, that 17-year-old, is the reason, is who I turned into after my divorce, and I was able to get myself up and take my brain back over. That boy, yo, I was like, this is the reason why. I was talking to my friend David about this, and he was like, this is the reason why you cut everything out when you have to do something. You work, you're so hard at it because of that. That showed the result. In my senior year in high school, I was taking three maths at one time. I ended up failing. I had missed too many days or something like that. Failing my math class. I passed the exam, but I failed a math class, so I wasn't able to cross the stage in high school. I begged them, but I ended up graduating after missing 7 months of school. And I remember after graduation, it was like, nope, I'm never doing this again. I'm never going. I remember saying, like, after I go through this, I'm not going to college. Like, this was the hardest thing in the world, but I did it. And that is a big reason why I am who I am. That is a big reason of me being able to persevere things and having my own back. And if there's one thing that I could teach y'all at the end of this, or you could learn from me, it's about having your own back. It is not about looking for people to save you. You have to save yourself. Nobody is going to save you. You have to save yourself. And when you save yourself, you appreciate yourself more. You love yourself more. The only difference between that young boy, there was a movie called what is the movie called? I don't know, but I'm gonna find it out. I'm gonna put the name down here. So I watched this movie, and it's about um, a, 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 an older woman in her 40s who goes back and she talks to her teenage self. An older self is telling her teenage self what not to do. So I was thinking about that in my life. My younger self would have thought it was crazy that I was marrying my ex, because we divorced for the same exact reason why I broke up with her as a kid. My younger self was a little bit smarter because alcohol wasn't involved and he was focused and he got a good sleep. Um, my younger self, I kind of listen now to my younger self in things that I do and moves that I make, because my younger self was very, 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 very intelligent. And um, the only difference between me then and me now that makes me better is I don't care about what people think. Realized that this was missing the conclusion of what happened with Benji and the whole robbery and everything. What I will say is that Benji ended up going to jail, graduated high school, maybe like a few years later. He went to jail for pharmaceuticals. He was did a 10-year bid in jail, and maybe like during the 6th year of him in jail, I wrote him a letter, and I'm like, you lied all these years. You have created such chaos in my life, and I still hold on to it. And he said, at the time I didn't know. It ends up being the guy who did it has the same name as my oldest brother. And so he assumed that it was the oldest brother. Um, and he apologized and he said, I feel terrible. And I've always wanted to tell you how sorry I was. And it was the closure that I needed. So I have closure on that. Uh, Yeah, so there's way more that goes into it. There's way more things. I am very protective of people in my family still that I don't want to talk about right now, especially for free. I ain't even monetized yet. I ain't even put this out yet, let alone. So maybe it'll have to be in my book. It'll have to be in the book, and the book ain't coming no time soon because the story just getting started. Please bear with me. If this story was all over the place, please bear with me. I'm very, very new at this. And also, if you have any questions, just ask me questions if we're on YouTube in the comments section. I feel like the story was all over the place. I feel like I summed up this story in such a short amount of time, but I don't be knowing. I don't know. I just want to be a good story. They tell me I'm a good storyteller. So that's why I'm on here telling stories. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the second episode of the Entitled Opinion Podcast. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you haven't watched the first episode, you got to go watch the first episode. Tune in. I don't know what day we're going to be premiering this. It will be every single week. You'll have a new episode. I cannot wait to bring my friends on. The conversation is going to be so good. And thank you. And remember, you are entitled to your opinion. I just made that up. Should we say that at the end of every episode? Remember, you are entitled to your corny. We're going to find something. Bye.